you're interested, if you're, sorry, Bernard was fixing a few things. So if you're interested, that's where I started my journey, and they have a plethora of classes and options. Gosh, I think I've spent $10,000 on screenwriting craft over 20 years. So yeah, it's expensive. So I'm going to read you a short story I wrote about screenwriting. So, well, it's happened. I'm stepping to the podium to talk about screenwriting to a group of writers in my area. After 2 decades of pouring my soul into the craft, mostly through screenplays, I've been asked to face a room full of eager writers and, well, give them a dose of reality, turning your beloved book into an on-screen hit. It's a Herculean task. Let me explain. I love screenwriting. It's a craft that lets you build entire worlds, shatter characters, and send them on transformative journeys that captivate audiences. But before you dive in head first, there are some hard truths you need to know. Let me start at the beginning. I started my screenwriting journey after writing my nonfiction World War II story, Gertie's War. I poured years into researching, reading over 129 books on the subject, writing, rewriting, but driven with the urge to get my elderly cousin's story out on paper. I knew I was onto something special. Then a story tickled my brain, flashing to life. This one was very different. I could see the characters starting their journey and then the ending, but I didn't have a clue what happened in the middle. I did what any desperate creative would do. I grabbed a few books on screenwriting, then signed up for a 2-year online course with Screenwriting U. The program gave me the foundation for screenwriting, and I completed 5 scripts, elevating each one and finding my voice. Then I went to a few writers' conferences, film festivals, and got further into the screenwriting world, which ruined watching movies for the rest of my life. I followed structure, format, hooks, misdirection, flawed characters with each viewing. I knew what they were doing, but one moment stands out at a conference with about 200 writers, all dreaming of seeing their novels adapted to film. The speaker asked how many believed their books had Hollywood hit potential, and nearly every hand shot up. I remember thinking, those dreams are about to collide with reality. After yet another 2-year intensive writing every day program, paid writing gigs, and working alongside film crews, I've learned one critical truth. Finding the next big screen adaptation is like sifting for gold in the desert. Hollywood is a business, a colossal, money-driven machine. Careers live and die on those decisions. One exercise in my journey was to come up with 300 high-concept ideas in 30 days. Just think about that. It sounded impossible at first, but soon I found inspiration in the most unexpected places. I wrote down 10 ideas a day, constantly tweaking and twisting them until I found 7 tidbits of high-concept gold. Our next task was to scour Amazon and other platforms to find 10 books with adaptation potential. I combed through over 300 novels before I found one that felt perfect. A whimsical tale about a young girl and her journey with science, magic, and a mechanical horse brought to life. I reached out to the author. She loved the idea, and her agent, who wasn't so hot on it, but quickly learned that the road to Hollywood wasn't that simple. Spec scripts, not interested. Studios, they want marketable, bankable properties from established entities. Disney, they only take pitches from inside after you have worked for them for years. Pixar, they pulled from inside. Mattel, they look for bankable marketing items that work within their brand, etc. Everything is a hard sell. No one wanted my unsolicited passion project. To further complicate things, once you sell a project, only 10% make it to screen. Man, I still love that book, Mechanica by Betsy Cornwell. Highly recommend it. Here's the stark reality of what makes a Hollywood hit. A marketable title that grabs attention. A high concept idea that's easy to pitch. A clear target audience, and don't say everyone. Does a genre choice show up strong? Do you have budget considerations that make sense? Are there roles designed for bankable actors? A powerful transformational journey for the characters is a must, and it has to have a conflict that grips us deeply. I have a handout I'm going to do on this, so you guys will help. Okay, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. It needs to be fresh, original, and instantly compelling. Snow White and the Huntsman sold for $1 million back in the day. You know the story just from hearing the title. And with the changes in production, you now only have a chance, if it's appropriate for a small production company, keeping it under a $2 million budget. The truth? Money. It comes down to money and budget. A production company once wanted to option my children's TV series. And I actually had the contract in hand, signed. But after another company failed to pay them, they went bankrupt, canceled the contract, and told me it would take $5 million to produce it in 4 years. Even winning an international contest didn't bring offers to my door. I've placed in well-known script competitions in the US and Europe and had over 15 scripts under my belt that I feel happy with, 7 of which are high concept and ready to go, ranging from children's pilots to action adventure and rom-coms. Sorry. Okay. As a script reader, I've learned the difference between good, bad, and truly awful scripts. But my stories continue to flare to life. It's ingrained in me, and I can't stop. Screenwriting taught me how to build worlds, write compelling, flawed characters, and I see the beginning and ending to every story that I write still. I'm considering producing my own award-winning short next year, A Sacred Place. I've made connections, understand the production process, marketing, and business decisions to make something stand out. But in this business, it all boils down to who you know and having a script that makes somebody say, holy cow, that is incredible. So the real question is, do you have a story that makes your eyes go wide? And who do you know? So that's just my journey to start with. So let's talk about some of those perils and what I am talking about. 50% of a buying decision is your title. I think that also relates to novel writing. Pay very careful attention to how you name your projects. Run it by friends. Don't just say, oh, I love it, but run it by people. Let's talk about Jaws. The log line, saying the concept in the movie in one sentence. A gigantic great white shark menaces a small island and 3 men try to stop it. The hook. The shark turns the tables on the hunters and hunts them. There's no way out. The note, why the hook works. Everyone has a fear of what is unseen in the water beneath you. So how do you get that compelling hook that people want to see it? Jurassic Park, the log line. During a preview tour, a theme park suffers a major power breakdown that allows the cloned dinosaurs exhibits to run free. The hook, the joy of seeing something so captivating from the past becomes a nightmare in the flesh. And nature always finds a way. Great lines. Sixth Sense, the log line. A boy who communicates with spirits that doesn't know they are dead seeks the help of a disheartened child psychiatrist. The hook, a boy seeking help tells the doctor he is actually dead and the child is there to help him. Where is our reality? What is real? Twister, logline. 2 storm chasers on the brink of a divorce must join together to battle the biggest tornadoes in order to get the data that could save millions. The hook, can 2 scientists who once loved each other put aside their feelings to battle the biggest tornado and save humanity? The note, the data becomes more important than their lives. Okay, so I want to talk about a little bit about the 16 business decisions. And Bernard, can you hand out, I've got some things and maybe we can post that in on the website on the talk. But I'll be going through these slowly, so for those of you online can just write these down. He's gonna while he's passing, I'm just gonna talk. Okay, let's talk about that title. As I mentioned, the Snow White and the Huntsman. Everybody's got a title or a movie that really transforms them. Cheryl, can you shut the door? We're getting a lot of back noise here. Everybody's got a story, a book, or a movie that made them start writing. We're storytellers, right? For me, it was John Ford's The Quiet Man. I loved everything about that movie. The characters, the setting, it was just pure perfection. But The Quiet Man doesn't really tell you kind of what it is, right? Even though but they had bankable actors. They had those bankable actors. So really pay attention to your title. Do you have a marketable concept? Do you have great visuals to bring you in immediately? Think about the visuals of your project you want to do. And then take it up a notch and take it up a notch. It's always about elevating and taking it up. When I draft a script, I used to call it my vomit draft. I don't do that anymore. I call it my discovery draft because I'm really discovering the story. Yes. The scene, visualizing the scene, yes. Think about who your characters are. Are they the right characters? And what is going on visually that makes it unique? Something we haven't seen before. Okay. Who is that target audience? Now, Disney has been doing very well lately with they changed about 10 years ago, really changing their marketing to not just the kids, but to the adults that went to the movies. Toy Story changed all that. Yeah, didn't you love it? I mean, it was just perfection, okay? Know your genre choice. If you say, I'm gonna write a spy, you better be watching a lot of spy movies, okay? You also have to take into consideration your first scene. Your first scene will set that hook for your movie. Okay, your first scene. So when I say I see the beginning of everything I write and I see the ending, really think about that beginning. Know your budget range. Do you really have to have it happen in a stadium full of people? In the background? Think about how you can do it in a shoestring budget. Can you do it outside? Does it have to be inside? Those types of things, okay? Do you have roles for bankable actors? Now, I have some leads of people who know people. I've got the lead to Bradley Cooper. So I'm like, what would Bradley Cooper really want to do? What would his production want to do? And sometimes if you write a strong enough script, you can reach out to those actors who might have production companies themselves, okay? What is the transformational journey that engages us and gives us sympathy for and empathy for that character? Your main character is your protagonist. You have to have an antagonist as well, who is, and an antagonist doesn't have to be a person. It can be a situation. It can be the environment. And what conflict grips us deeply? Those are the first 8, okay? When we talk about marketability for those decisions, is it unique? Is it true? Is it timely? So timely, how many stories do you think are going to come out about Helene? Think about that, okay? Is it a first? Or in Hollywood's point of view, is it number 5 of Saw? Because they look at, it's a money-making decision. If this worked, we're going to take that franchise and we're going to do it again and again and again. The Hollywood studio machine is losing production companies and they're merging, and now we only have really big companies that are out there doing things. So that's why I want you to concentrate on something that can be done for $2 million. When I say $2 million, that means it doesn't have big fanfare. It is done in a solo location primarily. It'll have 4 or 5 characters. Okay, it's going to be small. You're not going to have a huge cast. Okay, is it edgy? Okay, think about that. Is it edgy? Will it have a wide audience appeal? Is it adapted from a popular book? Now, I mentioned in my little story here about my Betsy Cornwall book, she was so excited because she had written 3 other books since I asked her about her Mechanica book, her children's book. And she said, well, it's not really doing anything. It's just, sales are there. But if you want to write a spec script, I don't have a problem with that. I talked to the agent, a big New York City agent, and she said, well, we'll consider offers from Hollywood. And I said, no, I want to write just the spec. And if I can sell it, then Hollywood will get involved. Then we will have that conversation. I finally got kind of her idea, but we never did sign anything, so I didn't do it because do I want to put my time and effort into it with an agent that is already starting to be a little difficult? You can find adaptations from popular books. Anything over 100 years is fair game. Is it similar to another box office success? I can't even say that word. Okay. And who would it have for that bankable actors? Again, I'm saying bankable actors. So if I wanted to do a production right now and I had managed to scrape up $100,000 to do a horror piece, because horror is the easiest to break into, I need to have one actor that is bankable, somebody who is known. And it's not that, oh, gee, you need to have that to be credible. No, but it is to be credible because money in Hollywood, your film, if you sell a script, you're going to get, now that with a strike, the actor strike, you're going to get a little bit more, but you make your money on when it sells overseas. That's where you really make your money. It's not in US distribution, because all those distribution companies, they make the money. You don't. You get a pittance on what you just did. But if you have a bankable actor in there and you go to, I think they have it in San Diego now, and you go to the big film market and you try and sell it, yeah, you're going to get a couple million for selling it to Greece. You're going to get 10 million for selling it to Italy. You're going to get, each country will buy the rights to that project. And that's where you make your money. Okay. So it's kind of like, what? That seems so bizarre, right? And those remakes are because those careers in Hollywood don't want to take a risk on an unknown project unless it's like, oh my God. So I've read thousands of scripts. Thousands, literally. You can find scripts online, find your favorite movie and read it and look and see what the script is. Very educational. When you write, read your project out loud. You will hear flaws. You will hear places where you hesitate. All those little hiccups as you're reading, you need to relook at that sentence. Something isn't working. So after doing all that, I have a friend who has some very big Hollywood friends, and we connected recently, and he said, oh, Lois, I've written a script. And I said, oh, I'd like to read it. And literally every word was perfection in that script. And he has 3 Hollywood producers and director, 3 companies looking at it. He has gotten rights to Beatles music and things like that, which is unheard of because his script is so incredible. So there's a project. He had sold one other project once before. He had only written 5 scripts, but his writing was so incredibly spot on that your jaw dropped when you read it. And he had bankable, once those directors got involved, he has people waiting to get signed onto that project, okay? So I want you, as a lesson, to see if you can come up with, give it 30 ideas. You try and come up with 30 high concept ideas, okay? For 10 days, come up with 3. Everybody has a different life experience. You'll see ideas come from most unusual places when you start thinking about that, okay? Yes?
What's an example of a high concept idea?
High concept idea.
Like what you were reading before,
Yeah, Jaws, right. Some of those are high concept, something that makes you go, what? I've got one I'm working on now where my short that I want to do is an Native American horror story. Have you seen one of those?
No. Mm-mm.
Do you think maybe some of those Indian spirits might be a little mad at what happened? So I'm playing with that concept because I think it has enough of a hook to make something really happen. So find and when you find an idea, change the career path of your main person. You know, put two opposing people together. I used to have a book that I had, and there's so many books on screenwriting, but it was put these two people together. You know, how bizarre can you do it? What if? Okay, try that. Yeah.
It's a book, I don't know. I adore fiction, but I can't write fiction to save my life. When you say that you can adapt a book that's 100 years old or older, is that kind of like movies that don't have any copyrights on them?
Right. The copyright drops after 100 years.
After 100.
Mhm.
Because you can look up online, like I do audio descriptions
Yes.
online, right? You can look up which ones don't have any restrictions on them, and then you can do a sample of your reading for it.
Mhm.
So it's the same thing with books, I'm imagining.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And there are some people that actually have the rights to some of the well-known, so you have to do a little more research in that. You know, your Mark Twain, there's going to be an estate and an attorney involved in that. Okay, so you know, you just got to be careful. But for some of the lesser knowns, there might be an idea. And how about taking a lesser known and switch up the location, switch up the time period? You know, there's all sorts of ways that stories come to us. Okay. For producers are going to want a strong hook that's going to make that story sell. Okay, because okay, so what are the roles? We have a director. Who's the most important person on a film project, do you think? The cinematographer. Okay, the cinematographer. So the producer is the one who puts all the pieces and parts together. He's the one who does set designs and the crews and getting all those people. Your cinematographer is the one who does the shots. Your director is the one who tells the cinematographer what to do. And it's his vision that actually comes to life. They're going to take your script and put it to life. So if I sell, like if I have a really incredible idea and I take it to a production company, they're probably going to do at least 2 or 3 rewrites on that, even though if they think it's perfection, they're going to do 2 or 3 rewrites. They're going to hire mainstream Hollywood scriptwriters for a polish. And it could be that maybe the director that they get assigned to that, he's got somebody he's worked with in the past, he's going to have them do a pass.
So you gotta learn to kill your darling.
Your darlings are, yeah, it's, you know, I've had people, oh, I can't, no, I don't want to change. No, whatever they want to do, let them do. Let them do, okay? So you got to know your stories. Let's talk about a log line, you know? How can you do a log line? So here's your little tidbit that will help you. You can go to ChatGPT, say, I am writing a story about this. Give it an outline of like 4 sentences of what your story's about. Give me a log line for that. It'll give you a log line. You say, give me 10 log lines. It'll give you 10 log lines. You know, it doesn't have to be, oh, I've got to do this, okay? You've got to know your story in an elevator pitch. You get on an elevator, you meet somebody, you got to tell it in 2 sentences or 2 paragraphs. How much time you got? You never know who you're going to meet up with, or who they know, okay? You have to have a synopsis. A synopsis is telling the story in 2 pages, 2 to 5 pages. If you have a story idea, you don't have to write the script. Just do the synopsis. I met a young man, well, he wasn't that young. I met a guy at a book festival last weekend, and he had been incarcerated, and he had some really great stories. And he goes, oh, I think they would make, you know, really good Hollywood films on these ideas. And so I said, well, tell me about them. And he told me he had 3 stories, 3 manuscripts ready to go. He had nearly not done too much. He hadn't been a book club or anything. And Two of the stories were actually kind of good. So I said, okay, well, you're the perfect person to write this because you were there. It was about a prison situation. He was in prison. And he said, yeah, I need to get the script. I said, no, you just need a synopsis. You know, you need to tell the story, why you're the right person to tell that story. And you need to be able to say that this happened. These are my characters. You need to set the scene and tell all the turning points that happen in that script and give the conclusion. You need to tell the whole story in 2 pages. He goes, oh, well, you could do that. No, I said, no, you're going to do that. Okay. Same thing. You know, there's a lot of ways online programs that will help you. You don't need to get Final Draft or Movie Magic screenwriting programs. You don't need to have the software to do a script. A script is action and dialogue. Action and dialogue. And a script is all about show, don't tell. I worked with, yeah.
So the synopsis, is it the entire story in short form?
Yes.
Or is it like this character, this character, this character, this happened?
The story in short form. So one of my paid writing assignments was working with this Indian director. We want to make Hollywood movies. We want to make US Hollywood movies. So he said, we got to have it quick. I got to have it for my investor group. So I did a script, like I said, 3 days. Never got out of my pajamas, just head down, story idea. It was cross eyes at the end. And I said, okay, this is kind of it. This is our discovery draft. And he said, no, we could shoot this. Yes.
If you clarify show, don't tell, isn't it different, like in a novel, you want to describe the mountains and the birds and all the senses, whereas in a screenplay, when you say show, you mean like the verbiage, their conversation.
Right. You show it through action and dialogue. You don't tell it. And that's one thing you'll see in European movies. They want to tell you everything that's going to be happening. Oh, she's a psychiatrist, don't you remember? She had that problem with so-and-so, and and they tell you all this stuff, and I'm like, no, it loses all the drama that goes with that story you're trying to say. And so it was very difficult to get that Indian producer and director to understand the difference between, what they were doing and what US films do. Yes, Barbara?
I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't clear, I don't think. I just wanted to validate what I've heard, is that you leave the description of the scene and the description, which is showing in a novel.
Mhm.
You're writing, she walks around and the acorns crunch beneath her feet, blah, blah, blah. Whereas that's left up to the creative director and the scene people. You don't write that in.
Right.
You might say scene, Western Front or whatever, but you leave it.
Yeah, you'll do your header, exterior, interior, and then you'll say time of day and what the location is, and that's it.
Show, don't tell. You're specifically meaning show by mostly character dialogue,
Mhm.
not that she wore a red blouse.
Right.
Okay.
Right, exactly, yeah. So let's talk about how to write a script. And this can actually help you for your novel writing as well. When I am coming up with a script, I will put my title in Excel, and I will do, I'll have 4 things happen in every 10 pages. And I do that. Now, a script normally is 90 to 120 pages. If you're a new writer, it should be 100 pages. If you're Stephen King, it can be 180, it doesn't matter. His book on the joy of writing is great if you haven't read it. On writing, yeah, it's really good. 4 things happen in every 10 pages to me. I say 4 things happen. And then what I do, I make a column, and then I say fear and hope. And I toggle between fear and hope for my main character all the way through my script. Because that's what we want. We want people, no matter if it's a rom-com, a happy thing, there's always an element of fear and hope for your characters. I also do a full bio on every character, every one of the main characters. Where did you grow up? What's your best day? What's your worst day? Because I have to throw that in the script. I pretend I'm a interviewer and I'm sitting across from them at a table. I describe them. I give them weird mannerisms or, other things like that. But I sit down like I'm a TV reporter and I interview them. That helps you so much to know what drives your character.
Well, what the dialogue out of them will be.
Right. It's a wonderful tool. And I kind of do the same thing in my novel writing. I want to know that backstory. I want to know, was there some traumatic experience that happened when they were 10 that sets them on this life journey that changed? I need to know those types of things. And then you've got to know where your hooks are. Now, a hook is when you have a misdirection, right? A hook is you're setting your characters down this path and they're going to veer left suddenly, right? It's one of your hooks. And there's people who say there's a 3-act, there's a 5-act, there's an 8-act section. I've done all different kinds. If you truly want to get into something like this in screenwriting, just drop me an email. And I can send you some little tidbits and things that might help you on that journey. And it's Lois Buchter at Gmail. Okay?
Say it again.
Lois Buchter, Lois Buchter at Gmail. My website is loisbuchter.com. And I have a lot of my log lines, my pictures, my pitch decks, also there's so many different aspects to screenwriting and things you have to have. But knowing your act structure, so if you have a 90-page script, your act 1 will end, you're going to have something big happen at the end of act 1 that's going to change the direction of your story. Okay? It's going to have your inciting incident will happen within the first 10 pages. Same thing for your book. Have your character have something incredible happen in those first 10 pages. And in those first 30 pages, you're going to know what the major conflict is that your character is having. In Act 2, your 30 to 60 pages, everything goes wrong. Right? You're going to build up, everything's going to go sideways. Your main conflict is in full swing. The worst thing that could have ever happened is going to happen. In pages 60 through 90, you're going to try and tie up your story. Your protagonist and antagonist will come face to face. There will be another moment when all is lost. And your protagonist will have to face that greatest fear. That's why you need that interview that you have. So let's talk about how that's a 3-act. Let's talk about an 8-act, okay? An 8-act, your opening scene is 1 to 4 pages. And it's going to shake you to your core. Whatever happens, whatever that inciting incident is, going to shake you to your core. Okay? Your inciting incident is going to set the movie in motion, and your protagonist must resolve it. And it doesn't get resolved to the end of the movie. So don't try and resolve it right then. By page 10, you really know what the movie is about. And every page you write equals 1 minute of screen time.
Oh, wow.
So if you're watching a movie, watch your favorite movies. Watch the first 10 minutes. What did they do? How did they set that scene? Okay?
If you use words to describe the first 5 minutes of the movie, it will take you a book.
Yeah.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
That's the toning down, the most concise type of communication is just seeing it and learning from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was just saying the scene is going to, it takes a long time. At the end of, that was Number 2 is the inciting incident. Number 3 is by page 10, you know what the movie is about. This is an 8-panel. Number 4 is the end of Act 1. Your page 30, you have a major twist. Same thing that happens in your 3-act situation. You have a major twist that happens. Your midpoint, item number 5, is by page 45, you have a major change. You're still going after the goal, but it's now different. Okay, you're going after the goal in a new way. On your second turning point is a second major twist. That's number 6. Okay.
Where are you getting these numbers from?
Oh, no, I'm just saying this is a 3-act. I talked to you about a 3-act situation. This is an 8-act.
Is this on your website?
No, I'm just talking about that. This is just in general screenwriting. Okay. Some people like the 3-act. Some people like the 8. There's even a 10-act that some people use. This is just in format. You know, how, when you have my Excel spreadsheet, I do the 8-act because I like it. It's just a little cleaner for me than doing a 3-act. So I do my 8-act, and I'm doing that hope, fear, as I'm going through my outline.
It's a formula.
It's a formula. And if I have that set up and these 4 things are going to happen in those 10 pages that are going to affect my protagonist and my antagonist, then I know where it's going. So when I sit down to write, I'm not going, no, I don't know what happens in the middle. I know what happens at the end. And that's what happens with a lot of people who sit down to write a screenplay the first time. I have this great story. I can see the beginning. I can see the ending. But if they don't outline it to get started, they get lost. They get lost in the middle. Okay. Your crisis happens at stage 7. Nothing has worked. And this is the toughest decision of their lives. Your climax and resolution happen in section 8. Your antagonist and protagonist come face to face, and your protagonist must be changed. Okay, their life has changed. They're different from where they were at the beginning. They face their toughest decision they'd ever have to make. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Can you say some more about your use of outlines? How do you do it, and how much effort do you put into it?
When I'm writing a script, I will spend a good 2 hours doing my outline. And it's not going to be perfect, and it's going to change when I actually sit down to write it, but at least I have a direction. It's going to point me in some way that I'm going. If I get stuck, I can skip ahead. I can go to the next block of 10 lines that are in there and say, okay, in the next 10 pages, this is going to happen. Then I can go back in. That all happens when you are, you're telling a story, but you want it to be linear, but you have all those hooks and turns and everything that happen along the way. Okay. So here are I want to talk a little bit about high concepts. Okay. How do you go to high concepts? Okay. So take an idea and ask, what fascinates you about that idea? And then you take it to an extreme. That's the worst thing you can do. Now, what I have found that in my personal writing, I take it to an extreme, and I'm writing it, and then I put it aside for a while, let it cook in my head for a while, and I go back and I can elevate it twice more. I can make it twice. I can raise the tension twice more, usually with another pass. Put 2 opposites together. You look at Ghost, 2 opposites, right? Those Whoopi Goldberg and Patrick Swayze, they were very opposite, right? And they had to come together. Increase your stakes. But you need to write down your ideas, okay? When you're going through this exercise trying to find your high concept, you need to keep them written down. Don't say, oh, I'll remember that, because you won't. Give it a unique environment or background. Do you have the right main characters? Think about that. Are they the right person to tell the story? and any particular character relationships of those people. My favorite, what if? Use the what if. Change the race, the sex, the species. Reverse the norm. Okay. Now I could talk about screenwriting and maybe we should do a whole workshop on screenwriting for the club. You know, for those people who want to do it. Okay. So for my character bio, I also have that. So if we talk about that, this is what I do for my character bio, and I'm going to just for each person I do. So I'm just going to give you kind of some of these ideas. So what does my main characters want or need? What paradoxes can I apply to that? And my favorite, what secret are they hiding? Okay. And what is their flaw? Now, for every writer, to me, I think we find people that we've met.
What is their what?
Flaw. What is their flaw? Okay. I think we relate to people that we know, family members, and all of our life experiences to give us, so everybody's going to come up with something different. What makes them special? What is their subtext? Okay. And you can have a whole class on subtext, but what is the character hiding? What are they afraid to say? Can it be luring, polite, plotting? What are they afraid to say? In their character arc. So you can have a character arc that goes way up at the beginning and then kind of flattens down, but it's always going to be a bell curve of some sort. Okay. What is their best day, their worst day, and their biggest fear? So that's kind of what you do. So let me tell you one of the hooks that I came up with, and I've not written it. Well, I think I outlined this script, but I didn't do it. So I just want to give you an idea. It was like one of my high concept ideas was I set a script after a great flood in New Hampshire in the 1830s. I used a real thing that happened and how it devastated that community. They were really basically cut off from the rest of the world because the flooding was so bad. And this flooding happened in October, and it's cold in October in New Hampshire. And we had a dad who was out hunting his kids. He wanted, their family didn't have anything to eat. But they went through a time portal and wound up they met this gentleman there who helped them out, and he wound up being Santa Claus kind of thing, But I had someone who didn't believe, who was adamant there was no such thing. He was just trying to take care of his family. And then I have him meet up with a Santa Claus type figure and how he believes by the end. And then I have my subtext is what happens with the family while they're looking for him. So you really go on that transformational journey, and you really begin to care for this man. You find out how much he's really helped the community and what he's trying to do. And he finally comes to believe in Christmas. So that's his Christmas miracle. Kind of like, what's the guy from It's a Wonderful Life, right? Yeah. But I used something and I said, I'm going to twist it. I'm going to find a real thing that happened. Same thing with, I had to come up with a story idea for a college course I was taking. And I found out about the true story of the first segregated school in the United States. So, and what happened were those Black people who came to that first school, what happened to the community when those people arrived, what happened to the people who believed in helping these people, and the huge group of people who wanted it stopped. Talk about conflict, you've got major conflict, and it's a true story. And I've outlined that into an 8-part miniseries. So that's something else. I also, maybe my children's animated script, I found out I entered it recently again. This is 20 years I had that script. And I have got, it's now a finalist in a small competition, but has got some big names behind it. So I'm hopeful that maybe that thing will come back to life, because you never know. right? You never know. I should do it like my grandmother. You never know. You got to go through it. But yeah, screenwriting has taught me a lot in my novel writing as well, because I really believe in those worlds. I really want to set up my protagonists and put them on that transformation journey. I think it's fun. Script writing, you can do a script 2 months. You could probably do a script, and get it out. I don't know how long it takes you to do a novel, but it's a much easier thing to write. And there is a screenwriting group actually in Sacramento. There is a Sacramento screenwriting group. If you're interested, I haven't been involved with them. I'm recently new to Sacramento. I had been up here before, but I believe they're still having their meetings and all. Yeah, so anyway, I want to take some questions about screenwriting, and then I want to talk a little bit about the book launch club that we want to do. So any other questions about screenwriting from anybody? Yes, Bernard.
It's not so much a question as more a comment, but obviously, Lois, you have lots of contacts in Hollywood and studios and stuff, or agents or whatever, but you do have lots of contacts. But if you're interested in screenwriting and want to take it seriously, has everybody heard of Internet Movie Database, imdb.com? Mm-hmm. You go there and you can find out all about movies, and you can see snippets and stuff and synopses and stuff like that. But you can subscribe to it. I have no idea how much it costs because I don't. But if you do, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. But you can find out. But if you subscribe to it, you get all the backstory of each and every film, all the like the directors, the producers, the cinematographers, the editors as well, who are equally important, and everything that and what other movies they've done and all the different connections they have and the relationships and stuff like that. Invaluable information. So if you're interested in Hollywood or any other studio, that's a must-have, or so I'm told.
Yeah, and one of the things I did that really helped me is that when I had a project that was similar, I searched for other similar ones on IMDb, and then I would find out who were the producers, who were the directors. And, most of them have their PR people. You can't reach out to them. But if you can find some of the smaller people that work on some of those projects, you can reach out and connect with them on LinkedIn. And that's one of the ways. I have 14,000 on my LinkedIn. So I worked it. Yeah.
You just pick their brain.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? You never reach out until you have something that's viable, something that's ready to go. And whatever you think might be ready, you need to have it by some other people, some other eyes, to say it's ready. Yeah. Yeah.
So is there a trend away from feature length film to TV series? And is the format different?
TV writing is a little bit different. Yes. Animation, or like a 30-minute spot, you're looking at a 22-page script for a 30-minute spot. And if I think it's 48 pages for an hour show. If you want to do a TV series, you would do the first 3. You would have scripts for the first 3 projects, first 3 showings, and then you would have a series Bible. So you would say, this is going to happen in this series. This is going to, it's going to be 14 or 12. These are the things that are going to happen in the first season. You would have something called a pitch deck. And a pitch deck is going to be the visual side of your story. It's going to be actor suggestions, a kind of a theme to the project. And there are people who do pitch decks. I've got some really good pitch decks. And that's only when your project is finished. So you have your synopsis, your log line, your 1 page, your 2 page, there are a lot of pieces that go to screenwriting. So yes, can you make some money? Yes, you can make some big money.
But it goes in both directions, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are series on TVs that become movies, like Downton Abbey,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are movies that become series on TV, like The Gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a trend for TV writing? Greater demand for that?
There is a greater demand for TV writing when you're 20 to 30. In the writer's room, there are probably in Hollywood, I think they're trying to change that, but maybe in Hollywood, if you're over the age of 50, there might be 20 in Hollywood. So so you look to see what's coming out, and these are all these young people who have interned or been a first assistant on a project, and they're stepping into those avenues. But there aren't a lot. We're in our prime. We're now we have the stories to tell. So look, check with your nieces and nephews, and find out what they want to see. What would you like to see? If you have a following, if you are an influencer or someone who's an influencer and you've got something that they might be interested in, that's gold. That's, that will raise an eyebrow. But, my project that I'm trying to do, I'm going to do a short, and it should cost me about $12,000 to do that short. And I have people, I know people who will, help me get it into a distribution thing. I'll send out to festivals and I'll go that route. And I get enough interest, I'll have people who will say, write me a script, write me a full length. I like what you did here, write me a full length. And that's how it starts usually.
You just need to look at Netflix or Hulu to see how many series there are in there, and some created by Netflix and Hulu and whoever.
And then you could go to IMDb and find out who that writer is and where they're from, and just get a little more information.
It's a good study to also look at the series that have been canceled after a season, because then you learn what they don't want.
Well, it's not so much what they don't want, it's what they didn't have the viewing or they didn't have the budget. Right now, it's down to budget. And, Game of Thrones, what's the new Gladiator movie that's coming out that was, right. And then there's also film incentives, in different areas. And in California, you have to be very careful because they have guidelines, and actors, there are certain standards that you have to pay. So if I wanted to do film my movie in California, it would cost me about $18,000 versus $12,000 doing it in Texas, or $10,000 doing it in Oklahoma. Because there are film incentives in different states and guidelines. California is losing its film industry. Things are going more to Austin and into some of those other states that have big incentives. Hallmark is all out of Vancouver, and they have a standard. They pay their writers $55,000 for a script, and they produce it for less than $2 million, and they make about $30 million on each film. So they have a formula that works. Yeah.
Is there a place online that we can access screenwriting scripts?
There are. I don't have it off the top of my head. I haven't looked at scripts in a while. But if you Google it, you'll be able to find ones that you can download.
Just type scripts online?
Yeah, scripts online. I can't remember.
Sometimes you can just look up the name of a movie
Mhm.
and then say screenplay,
Got it.
and it'll just come up in a PDF.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's a good idea, thanks.
And you don't have to have Final Draft and all those fancy ones. You can do it in Word. Just space it. Yes.
It's an interesting, dynamic. I'm thinking if you were starting out, let's say you have some skills in screenwriting and perhaps the novel form. So it takes a lot longer to write a novel,
Mm-hmm.
and yet you'd be more accessible to that world sitting in Sacramento.
Yeah.
I still think that's true. Like you mentioned the story room, you have to live in LA.
No, you really don't. So I go to Austin. So I did the Austin Film Festival, and Austin has by next year they'll have more production companies in Austin than they do in.
So that's something that's really changed.
Mhm.
I did some screenwriting in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a different world.
It really is. Yeah, a lot of houses have merged.
Plane,
Yeah.
and you'd have to go down there, and there was a point where.
But there are also more networking opportunities in LA still, because your agent base is more in LA for film, but you have a lot in New York as well, WGA East and West. And so there are avenues that way, but you've got to have that story, who do you know? Who do you know? And a story that makes you go, wow, yeah.
Writers contests, they increase your visibility.
They increase your visibility. I've placed in some really high contests. Did anybody come knocking at my door? No. That's just the reality of it. I've gone to Austin. I was a second rounder at Austin, and something I can put in my bio, but you know, yeah, you gotta, it's who you know. You gotta find those people. You gotta go to those networking opportunities. You know, go down to LA and go to some of those parties and do that sort of thing. And I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to talk story. I love story. If I have a story that knocks it out of the park, I'm all in.
So still my understanding there was an annual conference or event in Los Angeles, which was basically a pitch conference,
Oh yeah, Pitch Fest.
pitch fest.
Hmm.
Are those the way you get into?
You can.
discussions?
Yeah, but there again, you got to have something that makes you go, wow. So if you're going to go pitch somewhere and you think you've got something that's so unique, right? You're going to outline your story and you're going to email it to yourself before you go pitch it anywhere. That gives you some legal, this is my story, this is what I came up with. You know, we used to say back in the 80s, 90s, oh, someone's going to steal my story. You know, that didn't happen very, you know, they get thousands of scripts a day. You know, they don't have time to say, oh, this one. Yes.
So have you ever seen a movie that you sit back and say, how the heck
Yeah.
did this, yeah.
Yeah. Everything all together at once. That one. What was that one?
Can you think of-
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, what? That made my head hurt. Yeah. Just thinking about that script. They knew somebody had the money and yeah, they had the bankable. Yeah, Barbara.
Are you familiar with the movie Once and then the other movie, Begin Again?
Mm-mm.
No, there are two movies that, I'm no authority on movies, but just for my personal preference, but I keep going back to these movies and learning when we talk about screenwriting and things. There's a movie called Once. It is an older movie, maybe in the 90s. I'm not really sure. Are you familiar with it?
No, I'm
No.
trying to remember, but.
Mhm.
Okay, and
Once you
so it was
describe
a
it,
low
like-
budget film, filmed in something like Ireland or something, and it was like $100,000 movie.
Mhm.
And so then they didn't make it big, but it's an exquisite show, and it's about musicians. And they didn't know whether to go big with their budget and hire actors, well-known actors, and teach them how to act like they're singing, and musicians playing instruments and stuff, or get musicians and singers. Well, they chose lower budget, get the musicians and singers. It's an exquisite movie.
Mhm.
Then Hollywood came out a few years back in the 2000s or whatever with Begin Again, and it had that Mike Ruffalo and the Keira Knightley in it. It's an okay movie. If I'd never seen Once, I would have been entertained, but the quality, because they're miming their, you know how when people, they always put some soft voice and they're just up there kind of going, oh, 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 you know, like they're singing and they're not really,
Mhm.
and they're dubbing in the words. So to me, the quality of the music, even though playing instruments and changing it, it's just not the same. So to me, those are two movies to watch for the learning when you're talking about low budget.
Mhm.
Where can you spend your money to get the big fun? Hollywood's known a little bit more than this other movie because they had some bigger actors, but it's still not a well-known movie. But this other movie, people who are craft with music and radio and things like that, special stations, they play it, they tout it all the time. So it does have its following. The music was all written by the musicians for the movie. So anyway, Once and Begin Again, if you want to.
Okay, we're getting on, thank you. We're getting on towards 11, and most people expect to have the session end. Is there anything else? Questions for Lois? Some last questions?
You mentioned you looked at 300 books to find one that,
Stood out. Mhm.
I'm assuming you didn't read all 300, or how did that work?
I looked for that log line. I looked for that visual, the cover. I looked for the blurb on the back. Was it unusual? Was it different? Yeah, and that's I just based it on that. So that's how important your books are when you're putting something together. Also, I wanted to comment about screenwriting. You know, What We Do in the Shadows is a TV series that came out of New Zealand. Tiki Wakuda, I don't know if I said his last name right, but they put that together for $12,000. It made like 365 million.
What was that? What was that?
What We Do in the Shadows, it's a TV series.
Oh,
And they did it very campy. They did it, shoestring wasn't, when we talk about the Blair Witch Project, there's another one that made over 300 million. It was done for less than $10,000. So there are contained projects. So when I say really think about where you're setting your story, find someplace that is unique, someplace that lends to the story you're trying to tell. So we just got a few minutes, so I want to talk about the book launch club. So the book launch club is something, I listened to a talk by Redwood Writers, I can't remember the guy's name, last month, and he talked about doing a pre-launch for writers. He said one of the main things that you can do to help yourself as a writer is to get reviews. And as writers collectively, we tend to drop our books before they're ready. So what he recommended doing is that each club should have their own book launch group or club, and it's like writers who will be willing to read projects before they're released to the general public en masse. So you will have a pre-launch. You will allow those books to be given, you will have them out on Amazon before you start telling everybody, my book's on Amazon, and you will allow it, you will give it to people, tell them it's ready. You're going to do it 6 weeks before your actual book launch is done. And you're going to say, I've got a book of poetry. I would really appreciate some reviews for my book. It's now available for 99 cents in an ebook. Please download it and give me reviews. They're saying we need to have 20 reviews on your book to get anybody to take notice of your book. Think about how many reviews you might have on your projects. And if you want 20 reviews, you need to reach out to 60 people, because 1 in 3 will actually do the reviews. So I don't mind, I could say, okay, for 6 people this year, I will get their books and I will read it and I will give a review. So that's all it's going to be. It's going to be a database that we're going to collect names, addresses. You're going to say what books you would be willing to read. When someone has a book launch, I talked to Bernard. I said, it'd be great to say, these are the authors that are going to be releasing a book in the next 3 months. We're into the final draft. They've got their writings done, and they're just finishing the innards, getting the formatting and the book covers and all that stuff. These are going to be ready. And reaching out to those authors and say, yes, I will read your book. Let me know when your pre-launch is ready. I will be willing to help you, because as collectively, we got to help each other. And those reviews actually do count in your standing. So when you actually launched your book, you're going to have 20 reviews and your book's going to go to bestseller.
Yeah, okay, I got a question that may not apply to everybody.
Uh-huh.
So I work with a lot of authors.
Mhm.
They have to have their book on Amazon before they can list it on ACX,
Mhm.
which is the Audible.
Auto, right.
That I do my auditions in, and then I snag a book, right, which just happened this past weekend. They don't know that they could do something like that because it's already on Amazon.
Mhm.
Can you have your book, because this lady's book was only on Amazon for a few weeks, and she started looking for a narrator.
Yes, you can have it on Amazon without saying,
Any fanfare.
right. You just don't put the words out. You just say, hey, those people who want to review my pre-orders are ready, and I want reviews. Yeah.
And then there's codes you can get out to the people so that when it's changed,
It's it's not codes, but you can put it. There's a setting that you can do in Amazon. I haven't done it yet, but there's a setting that you can put. You can gift. Okay. So anyway, I thank you. I hope you guys will go
Before
for it.
we do wrap up,
Uh-huh.
well, round of applause. About the book launch, we're definitely going to be doing this. We've talked about it at the boards on and off, but never actually done anything about it. But I'm going to be taking it offline with Lois and also Barbara back there. But if anybody has any ideas or any knowledge which they can contribute, send it along to me and we will put it together. We're going to be putting some things on the website and just and in the newsletter, and we'll have like a list of advice on how to do a book launch, basically.
Thank you all for coming. See you next time.